China slams the United States' move to blacklist 24 Chinese companies involved in the militarization and reclamation of the South China Sea. Beijing stands firm that it's their territory and that the U.S. action is unjustifiable and a violation of international law.
It is unjustified for the U.S. to impose sanctions on Chinese companies and individuals for their involvement in relevant construction activities in their own country.
In an interview on The Source, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin Jr. says he will find out if the same companies have existing projects in the Philippines. And if they do, Locsin says he would recommend for their termination.
In that regard, I'm glad you brought that up, and I've learned something here. Yes, if I find that any of those companies are doing business with us, then I would strongly recommend we terminate that relationship with that company. If they were in any way, if they're involved in the reclamation, then it becomes consistent on our part to terminate any contract with them. Of course, since the contract was already entered into, they could sue us back. But that's a good point, because I'm very careful about validating anything China does by inaction.
Locsin meanwhile shrugs off China's firing of missiles in the South China Sea as it sends a signal to the United States not to meddle in the regional dispute. But the DFA chief has a warning to Beijing in case of a spillover from their provocations.
However, I warned, and this kind of irritated Beijing, should those naval exercises spill over into my territory, then they must expect the worst. And of course, you leave that undefined, because that's the nature of diplomacy, and also more than that, it is the nature of my expertise.
When it comes to the diplomatic protests recently filed by DFA, Locsin says despite receiving no response from China, he will not tolerate inaction. Locsin also defends his decision not to bring the protests to another international court or to the United Nations. He says he will not allow to lose the arbitral award under his watch, stating that some countries in the Southeast Asia may work towards against the ruling.
I trust no one, because when we started it, we were alone. And I'm going by that. I'm not going to go by assertions, especially since right now we are the lead in protesting China's actions in our territory, in the South China Sea.
The Foreign Affairs Department rejects the proposal of the Philippine Coast Guard to post its attachés in Beijing and Washington. Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin Jr. says that only the DFA, the Department of National Defense, and the National Security Advisor can decide on Beijing's move in the West Philippine Sea. Tristan Odalo, CNN Philippines.